Um, the idea of cultural osmosis brings me to the story of the Tower of Babel. When humans, or when the Christian God felt the humans were building a tower to get closer and closer to heaven, the Christian God decided to confuse the situation and force all of the humans to speak different languages. And this to me is a metaphor for cultural blindness. And what I mean by this is to think that your culture is right and to not examine your own culture from a third person's point of view. Um, and cultural blindness is a very, very difficult thing to overcome. Usually the whites kind of overdo this. They have a lot of, like, let's say slave owner guilt, wealth and prosperity types of guilt, and of course there's poor, broken white trash. But let's just say the majority of middle to upper middle class Americans have some kind of, like, for example, like if you say you people and some black guys like, what do you mean you people? All the white people in the room get nervous or embarrassed or shy or blah 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 blah. So when we talk about the aspects of cultural blindness, am I gonna be one of those, like, guys that's just like China's number one, like go China, like everything China does is right? No, not really, because then that would be kind of really stupid. Um, of course, just like white people, a lot of Chinese people feel that, they want to wage an atomic holocaust against Japan. And that sentiment even carries to this day. In fact, I think if everybody took their eyes off the Shanghai Composite Stock Market Index, the next thing on everybody's minds would be to wage a military conflict against Japan. Mm, so I believe as a human throughout one's life, it's imperative to re-examine the ideas and values that you were brought up with. Feel like some of the most advanced of us, goes through this, um, and the rest of us barely goes through this at all. Um, so the main idea or the main spiritual work I'm trying to re-examine is this idea of, like, absolute parental righteousness. And especially, in my dad's situation, like, uh, he basically criticizes everybody for leaving their children behind, and he criticized me for having a kid in the first place, and saying how I'm not ready, and blah 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 blah, and how I was born out of wedlock, and for him to basically leave me behind in communist China. And I calculated based on the fact that he was born in 1966 and I was born in 1988. He was 21 and a half years old roughly when he had me. And for him to say wedlock issues, there's so many issues around the Chinese citizen registration system called hukou. Hukou basically means the protection of the table or the protection of the mouth, which basically meant if you didn't have a hukou registration, there was no food. Um, so he basically left me behind and fled to America. He's going to criticize all of my other relatives for, leaving their kids. And basically, he's going to dedicate the majority of his resources to his new children and basically kind of cut me out of the equation, which now is probably one of the best times to realize that old people aren't always right.